Everyone knows Jason Statham as the tough guy who does his own dangerous stunts. But when the cameras stop rolling, there's a different story. In 2025, medical reports came out showing what his dangerous career really cost him: broken ribs, head injuries, and a wrist that broke and never healed right. His wife Rosie recently told him to stop doing certain stunts. Why? Because doctors told them something that scared both of them badly. The man who survived almost drowning, bee stings, and so many fights now faces his biggest enemy yet. And this time, he can't fight his way out of it. He was born on July 26, 1967, in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, a town that didn't offer big dreams, only hard jobs that broke people's backs and crushed their hopes. Coal mining had shaped the land and hurt the lungs of the men who worked there. Jason Statham came into a world built on just trying to survive, not on being comfortable. His father, Barry Statham, had been born in 1939 and lived through Britain's coldest winters and times when money was really tight. By the time Jason was born, Barry was doing any job that brought in money: painting houses, mining coal, selling things on the street, even singing in nightclubs in the Canary Islands when local work ran out. He didn't get to pick and choose. If it paid money, he did it. Jason's mother, Eileen Yates, was a professional dancer who brought energy and excitement to their otherwise tough working class life. Her world was pubs and dimly lit nightclubs, singing under cheap lights while her husband fought to make money in the streets. Jason watched both worlds from the sidelines. He saw the struggle, but also the stage lights, the dirt, but also the sparkle. Their home wasn't broken, it just never stopped moving. His brother Lee played guitar, Barry would sing, and Jason kept the beat on drums. It was like their own little show created out of need, not fame. At 10, they left Shirebrook behind and moved to Great Yarmouth, a beach town filled with noise, market stalls, and tourists. Barry set up shop again, this time in open-air markets, selling cheap stuff to people passing by. The work was fast, risky, and never-ending. Jason learned everything by watching him: how to read people, when to push forward, when to step back. He could have joined in full-time, but he didn't. He chose something else: martial arts. At 11, Jason threw himself into training: karate, kickboxing, Chinese martial arts. He practiced every single day, turning all the pressure inside him into control. Later came Muay Thai, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Krav Maga. He earned his black belt in karate and mastered moves like the Seoi Nage throw and holds like Kesagetame. The discipline kept him from getting into trouble. It gave him focus that other kids didn't have. He wasn't just strong, he was precise, and being precise gave him power. In school, he became friends with Vinnie Jones. They weren't famous then, just regular boys with determination and soccer cleats. Jason played forward position from 1978 to 1983. The football field gave him another kind of discipline: teamwork, timing, strategy. It wasn't just a sport. It was another way to survive, to find control in a world that didn't hand out guarantees. That attitude followed him into everything he did. When he turned 12, Jason added something else: diving, not just for fun, but as a serious athlete. He trained with Great Britain's national swimming team for 12 years, learning to dive from 1 meter, 3 meter, and 10 meter platforms. In 1990, at age 23, he competed in the Commonwealth Games in New Zealand. He placed 8th in the 1 meter event, 11th in the 3 meter, and 12th in the 10 meter platform. During one dive, he scored just 86 points. An English judge gave him only 5 points. It hurt. He didn't make it to the Olympics, and he knew why. He started training too late, but even that failure made him sharper. While training, he still worked part-time selling fake perfume and jewelry with his father. This wasn't some fun weekend side job. It was hard, exhausting survival work, standing on street corners in all kinds of weather, hoping someone would buy what you were selling. When modeling jobs started coming, it seemed like a way out. Between 1996 and 1997, he got jobs with Tommy Hilfiger, Griffin, and Levi's. It looked like success, but it paid very little and didn't lead anywhere. Then everything changed. Guy Ritchie was choosing actors for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and needed someone who could play a real street hustler, someone who didn't need to pretend, someone who'd actually sold things on the street before. Jason wasn't just right for the part, he was the role. He got paid $50,000 to play a character named Bacon. The film became hugely popular. 2 years later, he earned $15,000 for Snatch. His career took off not because he learned how to act, but because he had already lived that life. In 1990, Jason Statham stood on the edge of a diving board in Auckland, representing England at the Commonwealth Games. He placed 8th in the 1-meter event and 11th in the 3-meter and 10-meter dives. Those scores didn't bring home medals, but something else came from the water: his body shape, his balance, his presence. That presence was noticed by a talent scout at London's Crystal Palace. Not long after, in 1996, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, and Griffin paid him $5,000 per campaign to stand in front of a camera instead of jumping off diving platforms. That money sounded good, but in London, it didn't go very far. Modeling had chosen him, not the other way around, and the jobs were coming only because his body still looked like it belonged to an athlete. By 1997, French Connection didn't want a model who looked like a typical model. They wanted someone rougher, someone who didn't fit the fashion world. Statham had the right kind of raw, tough look. His buzzed haircut, square jaw, and serious stare made him the face of their F**k campaign. The city filled up with posters of him staring from alley walls and storefronts, but the paycheck barely reached $10,000 a year. It was just enough to hang on, not enough to move up. His face was famous, but his refrigerator was still half empty, so he hustled just like his dad. On Oxford Street, he sold fake perfume and knockoff jewelry, copying the tricks he'd watched as a boy. A flash of confidence, a quick story, a charm that won over tourists. Some days he pulled in $200. That was survival money, but it wasn't safe. In 1996, he sold a fake Rolex to 2 buyers who turned out to be undercover cops. He didn't panic. He smiled. He joked. He talked his way out of getting arrested. That escape taught him something important. When pressure builds, stay calm, use your words, own the moment. That cool confidence would later become his trademark in every film audition. Before movies, though, there were music videos. In 1993, a band called The Shaman shot a rave-style video called Common On. Statham, wearing leopard print briefs, danced under club lights in Brighton, unscripted and wild. In 1994, Erasure filmed Run to the Sun, where he appeared half naked again, this time in a golden cage on a beach, moving with the rhythm like he was born for the camera, not the diving pool. Nobody called him an actor yet. He was just a body in motion. But something was changing. In 1997, Guy Ritchie was looking for authenticity. He didn't want polished, trained actors. He wanted street toughness. He wanted someone who could sell him a lie and make him believe it. Statham walked in not with a resume, but with real hustling skills. Ritchie asked him to pretend to sell fake goods on the spot. He did it so well that he got the role, playing Bacon. A streetwise gambler in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels wasn't a stretch for him. It was just Jason being Jason. He was paid $20,000, not much, but more than any perfume hustle ever made. And for the first time, his name appeared in movie credits. That film was pure chaos. Shot in real East End pubs with an $800,000 budget, The actors made up scenes while local people heckled them in the background. Statham didn't have lines so much as instincts. He broke a car window with a shotgun in one scene that reminded him of real fights he'd once avoided in his own life. Nothing was fake, not even the nervousness. Ritchie encouraged that raw feeling. The mess became something magical, but after filming Wrapped, producers almost cut Statham out completely. His accent, too gritty, too East End, was called unpolished and rough. Ritchie refused to give in. He fought to keep Jason's real voice raw and imperfect. When Lock, Stock hit theaters in August 1998, it earned £3.9 million in the UK and made Statham's tough guy look instantly recognizable. 2 years later, Ritchie called him again for Snatch. This time, he wasn't a side character. He played Turkish, the boxing promoter working his way through gang wars and a diamond heist. The budget jumped to $10 million. Statham got more lines, more stunts, more bruises. He broke 2 ribs during one fight scene in an old London gym. No stunt double, no complaints. The cast included Brad Pitt and Benicio del Toro, and the chaos was real. They shot in alleyways and crumbling old buildings. Every scene looked like it had been dragged out of the dirt. The film earned $83.6 million around the world. That face, the one that once stared from discount perfume stands, was now on movie posters worldwide. But behind the scenes, not everything went smoothly. During 1999 reshoots, Statham made up a threat toward Del Toro's character on the spot. Del Toro didn't know it was improvised. He thought it was personal and real. Tension exploded, words flew. Ritchie had to step in to calm things down. That fight never made it to the screen, but the intensity did. Their scenes crackled with energy because something unsaid stayed between the lines. Later, Statham admitted he almost took it too far. But that was the line he always walked: real, raw, risky. In 2002, Jason Statham walked onto the set of The Transporter, determined to prove that action heroes didn't need wire tricks, CGI computer effects, or stunt doubles. One scene at a dirty bus depot changed everything. For 15 brutal takes, he fought off attackers while covered in oil. It wasn't for show. He did every move himself, every kick, every fall. His ribs were so bruised by the end that even breathing hurt. There were no camera tricks. Director Corey Ewan had trained him in martial arts for 2 full months before cameras even started rolling, and that training led to one of the most talked-about scenes in the movie. The oil fight didn't just look real, it was real. That level of risk wasn't a one-time thing. The car chase scenes were even more intense. With a $20 million budget and a vision of making it look real, Statham signed a contract that said no stunt doubles could do the driving. So when you see him driving backward through the narrow, crowded streets of Marseille, France at nearly 80 mph, that's really him behind the wheel. No green screen, no controlled track. The crew had to film between local rush hour traffic just to avoid disasters. One wrong turn and it would have ended in twisted metal and ambulances, but it didn't. The film pulled in $43.5 million worldwide, and his legend was born. 3 years later, Transporter 2 raised the stakes again. Statham climbed a 10-story building in Miami with nothing but suction cups stuck to his hands and feet. No safety wires, no backup plan. Halfway up, his grip slipped. He fell 20 feet. The ankle sprain was so bad he stayed in the hospital for a week. They finished the scene with a stunt double, but the damage was already done. He limped through scenes that needed speed and strength, refusing to quit. Director Louis Leterrier later admitted the stunt should never have been attempted without safety nets. But that was Statham's choice, and it nearly ended his career. Then came the airplane fight. In the big ending of Transporter 2, he battled bad guys in a fake jet filled with real G-force hydraulics that made everything shake. It was cramped, chaotic, and incredibly hard to plan out. But there was another kind of clash happening off-camera. Shu Kai, his co-star, refused a scripted kiss because of her cultural beliefs. The scene had to be completely rewritten during production. Dialogue was scrapped, reshoots were scheduled. The tension could have wrecked everything, but they made it work. The movie still made $85, $1 million, and kept its high-action reputation. In 2008, Transporter 3 brought him to Ukraine for one of the most dangerous stunts yet. Handcuffed to a truck with a dislocated shoulder, he ran across rough roads, slammed into real obstacles, and powered through scenes with no digital tricks. Every hit landed harder than the last. Critics said the violence was too much, but fans loved how raw it was, and the numbers proved it. $108. $5 million worldwide. Pain was part of the job. His shoulder didn't fully heal for months, but he never asked for someone to take his place. He just kept going. That same year, he made The Bank Job, a heist movie based on the 1971 Lloyd's bank robbery. During production, the team discovered that secret MI5 government files connected to the real robbery had only recently been made public. The documents showed a government cover-up involving stolen photos of a royal family member. The stakes suddenly felt different. MI5 intelligence agents watched the set. Producers hired security guards. And suddenly the story was more real than fiction. It rattled people, but it also got headlines. Statham wasn't just playing a thief. He was retelling a story the government tried to bury. That same fearlessness showed up in Death Race. Statham raced armored cars at high speeds, doing his own burnouts without protective gloves. His hands got burned against hot metal. One scene involved a guard getting his head cut off by a prop, while Statham rammed into it at full force. The MPA ratings board nearly blocked it. Censors demanded cuts, but the producers pushed back, and the film was released with its most brutal scenes still in it. It made $75, $8 million, and critics said it felt almost too real. Statham's crew warned him again and again to use safety equipment. He didn't. He wanted it raw even if it hurt, and then came war. Jet Li and Jason Statham fought with swords in a tightly rehearsed sequence. One slip, and the sword sliced Statham's arm wide open. Blood poured out. He needed 12 stitches. He should have stopped filming. Instead, he kept filming for 12 more hours. His shirt stuck to the wound. The director offered to stop production. Statham said no, that scar never faded, and neither did the story. It was a reminder that he wasn't just acting, he was enduring real pain. Even outside of the Transporter movies, the danger followed him everywhere. In The Italian Job, he drove a Mini Cooper through LA subway tunnels. They used 32 cars to film it with more than 200 takes. Then one car went underwater. Equipment broke and trapped Statham in a flooded tunnel. The crew pulled him out just seconds before he would have drowned. He later admitted it was the closest he'd ever come to dying on a movie set. "I shouldn't have done it," he said, but he did. And in Crank, things got even crazier. He played a hitman who had to keep his adrenaline pumping or he'd die. So he ran across real Los Angeles highways with no barriers, weaving through actual traffic on Highway 110. Cars swerved around him. One car hit something. Filming got shut down. Lawsuits were filed. The crew paid off angry drivers, but the shot stayed in the final movie. It was dangerous, reckless, and unforgettable. The chaos wasn't just part of the story. It was the story. When Jason Statham joined the Expendables in 2010, playing a knife-throwing soldier named Lee Christmas, he knew the film would be a wild mix of big egos, explosions, and old-school action. But what he didn't expect was nearly drowning just 3 years later. In 2013, while shooting The Expendables 3 in Bulgaria, the brakes failed on the flatbed truck he was driving. The vehicle shot off a dock into the Black Sea. Trapped, sinking, and tangled in his own belt and holster, Statham was seconds from passing out before he slipped through a window and swam free. He called it a terrible experience that changed how he thought about stunts. But he didn't take a break. He changed clothes and got back on set. He survived because he'd been a competitive diver in the Commonwealth Games. That background saved his life. Sylvester Stallone later said bluntly, "Jason would have died if he didn't know how to swim like that." The moment triggered lawsuits and forced the crew to review safety rules across the whole production. It wasn't the first time things got too real. In 2011, while filming The Mechanic, a remake built around precision assassinations, Statham pushed for making it authentic. The budget ballooned to $50 million, partly because he refused to fake explosions with computer effects. One real explosion went wrong and injured a stunt coordinator. Another explosion nearly hit Statham himself. The director later admitted it was Statham's decision to use real effects, a move that added toughness on screen but cost real injuries off it. When the sequel came out, the stunts only got riskier, and so did the accidents. In Fast and Furious 6, released in 2013, Statham made his first full appearance as Deckard Shaw. One of the final stunts involved driving a car off a 260-foot ramp in a scene meant to look like a plane crash. On the day of filming, wind gusts flipped the car. Statham suffered whiplash and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He later called it one of the most dangerous things he'd ever done and said the injuries reminded him how little control you really have in those moments. Then came The Meg, in 2018, a big-budget shark thriller with a prehistoric monster. One underwater stunt nearly killed him. While filming in a diving cage, the equipment cracked under pressure and trapped him 45 feet below the surface. He was stuck for 45 seconds before freeing himself. The panic was real, but he kept calm, surfaced, and carried on. No double, no retreat. The $150 million movie ended up making $530 million worldwide, making it one of the most profitable shark films ever made. Statham later said the shoot was terrifying in a way that fight scenes never were. Sharks don't follow directions. In Mechanic, Resurrection, in 2016, he took that mindset to another level. One of the film's standout sequences shows him climbing a Malaysian skyscraper without safety gear. In real life, he actually did it. There were no harnesses in early takes. He slipped, fell 30 feet, and landed hard on concrete. The concussion stopped production and forced them to rewrite scenes. He kept going, but later he quietly admitted that a lot of injuries like that were just ignored on set. He said, "Stunt actors risk their lives every day and barely get noticed or thanked." After the Crow tragedy, many people assumed safety was stricter. But on Statham's sets, danger was still part of the deal. Not every danger came from stunts. In 2015, during Spy, a sharp comedy meant to make fun of his usual tough guy image, things got tense when director Paul Feig changed the script without warning. Statham walked off set for a day. The clash shook up the $65 million production. Crew members said it was the only time they saw Statham truly lose his cool. He came back, and his performance ended up being one of the most praised parts of the film, mixing deadpan humor with action toughness. But it also showed how uneasy he was about breaking type. That same year, while shooting Hobbs and Shaw in Samoa, he hit 100 mph on a motorcycle for a chase scene. The bike struck a pothole, launched him across the pavement, and broke his wrist. He didn't stop. He didn't call in a double. He healed and came back to finish the stunt. Crew members said his refusal to fake anything inspired both loyalty and worry in equal parts. In the 2010s, he started facing criticism for rejecting dramatic roles. He turned down an audition for The Dark Knight and said he didn't like playing soft characters. Some people called it short-sighted, but it worked. He built a $20 million per film brand that didn't rely on awards, just fists, scars, and box office numbers. He once said, "I'm not here to act like someone else. I'm here to show what happens when someone pushes back." In 1997, before all the fame, he met model Kelly Brook on a photo shoot. They started dating and stayed together for 7 years. He proposed in 2004. Weeks later, she called it off after being photographed with Billy Zane on the French Riviera. Statham was crushed. Friends said he felt humiliated and embarrassed. Brooke later said they might have lasted if they weren't in the public eye. He never spoke publicly about it except once when he said he felt betrayed. It stuck with him. Then came model Sophie Dahl. They lasted 6 months in 2005. She said his workout routines and filming schedules made him emotionally distant. By August 2006, they ended things. She later said the passion was real, but the future wasn't there. He met Rosie Huntington Whiteley in 2010. They went public with their relationship quickly, but in 2011, after a fight at the Transformers A premiere, they split up. They got back together, but the reunion nearly fell apart during a high-speed paparazzi chase in Los Angeles. Rosie said it was the moment they realized fame could literally be deadly. They stuck together. In 2017, they had a son, Jack Oscar. Rosie gave birth at home in LA. Statham was filming Meg 2 in 2020 and was gone for months. Rosie admitted the distance nearly broke them apart. They started going to therapy. It helped. She said they learned how to protect each other from the spotlight and from themselves. In 2022, they bought a $14 million mansion in Beverly Hills. By 2023, camera drones were flying over their backyard. One came within inches of a window. Rosie said it made her demand limits on his stunts. Statham once threw a shoe at a drone. It didn't help. The invasions continued. In January 2024, The Beekeeper opened quietly and became huge. On a $40 million budget, it made $162 million. Statham played a retired assassin hunting scammers. He was allergic to bees, but did every scene himself. He kept EpiPens nearby and had mild allergic reactions on set. He never used a double. He said working with bees was scarier than anything he'd done before. A sequel was approved before the year ended. In 2025, he starred in A Working Man, directed by David Ayer. It topped the MGM Plus streaming charts. Behind the scenes, Statham mentored 12 young stunt performers, taught them safety rules, and insisted on having medical staff on set. He'd been hospitalized for 3 days during a separate project in 2023 and didn't want anyone else to face that. Studios began following his example. By 2025, his films had made over $5 billion globally. The Meg earned $530 million. Hobbs and Shaw made $760 million. The Expendables A franchise crossed $2 billion, but his biggest regret wasn't about money. In 2006, he passed on auditioning for James Bond. The studio said 39 was too old. In 2024, he told a podcast he should have fought harder for it. That rejection made him redefine what an action hero could be. In 2020, he donated $1 million to UK diving programs. He said diving kept him off the streets and gave him purpose as a teenager. By 2022, over 1,200 scholarships had been funded. In 2025, death hoaxes claimed he drowned in a Texas flood and died in a car crash. They were all fake. He was in Italy posting vacation photos while headlines reported his death. It became a joke, but also a reminder that people are always watching, even when they shouldn't be. In 2025, he finished filming Levon's Trade. Written by Sylvester Stallone and based on Chuck Dixon's novel, it comes out January 17, 2025. Statham plays Levon Cade, a quiet former Special Forces soldier dragged back into violence. It's darker, less flashy, more personal. It's meant to shift his image again.